On pole for race 2 of the day, and Tim Harvey joins David Addison in the commentary box.
And this promises to be a very lively 23-lap race if it's anything like the first. And it should be, because it's got a partially reversed grid, which means that Gus Burton, who was fourth in the opener, is on pole position. And the race 1 winner, Adam Smalley, starts fourth and has some work to do. Nathan Harrison and Josh Stanton were the other two class winners in the earlier race of the day. You're riding on board with Seb Morris, British GT champion, coming to Carrera Cup GB this season. It's a new car for this year. There are some new teams, new drivers as well. There's a lot to look forward to. Yet another returner. That's not 1 by 1 staggered grid. It's a new car for this season, this 992 iteration of the 911 GT3 Cup. 510 brake horsepower from the 4-litre engine. They weigh in at 1,265 kilos. A new tyre as well, so quite a lot for drivers to get used to, and indeed for the newcomers to get used to.
Well, the newcomers, of course, didn't know the old car, so they haven't got anything to compare it against. But if you remember last year, Harry King was racing the two different cars, the old car in the UK and the new car in Super Cup, and it was a very difficult car to adapt to when you were changing from one to the other. But if this is all you're driven, then you're a lucky so-and-so, because they are fantastic cars. I've had a test in the new car, and it's absolutely brilliant, but very different. I'll explain a bit more about it as the race goes on, but a great opportunity for Gus Burton, who hasn't lined up anywhere near as far forwards as he could do if he wanted to, but he was on, look how far back from his pit box, from his grid box he is. But he was on pole originally for race 1, so he certainly has the pace. He just made a couple of small mistakes in race 1 and wore his tyres and got jumped at the end, but can he make amends in race 2?
We are ready to go racing then. 23 laps ahead of us. Gus Burton is the man on pole position for the Century Motorsport team. Lights are red. It is blast off, and a good start by Matty Graham. A good start also by Seb Morris. Not a good start really by Gus Burton. He's been mugged, hasn't he? And there's drama in the background, one on the grass. Thankfully, contact is averted with everybody else, but a really good start by Matty Graham. He leads the way. Not a good getaway in contrast from Gus Burton.
Yeah, and further back, Kieran Dewis slicing up the inside into Redgate. Looked like Peter Carr Henny having a bit of a spin, but a brilliant start by Matty Graham. He was away like a scalded cat.
Down through the old hairpin then. For the first time they come. Theo Edgerton, the reigning Sprint Challenge champion, number 54, going through. He's another man on a mission as the cars now make that climb up through Schwantz Curve. And yet the top two getting away already, but Gus Burton will be ruining that poor start.
Yeah, he was, I mean, not only was he way back on his grid box, he just did not get the launch right. But, you know, in fairness, Matty Graham has had plenty more Porsche experience, a race winner himself in the past. So, unsurprisingly, he perhaps got a bit better jump. And Theo Edgerton putting some pressure on Seb Morris here. Morris weaving down the straight. The clerk of the course won't like that, I'm sure.
Indeed so, nor will Theo Edgerton, because everywhere he wanted to be, Seb Morris was there already. Matty Graham, who had a race win in 2020, leads over the line. Gus Burton is second. Edgerton again tries to get up the inside. Seb Morris defending stoically, should we put it like that? But Theo Edgerton looked the quicker. If he could only prise open the door, he makes the move to the inside. Morris cuts across. Seb Morris, with his elbows out, is absolutely determined to hang on to this place, but Edgerton looks the quicker of the two, and they're both being caught now by Adam Smalley there, the race 1 winner.
Yeah, and Smalley had Kieran Dewis right behind him, really putting the pressure on as well. This is a fast group, but at the front it's still Matty Graham and Gus Burton that have got a 1.8 second lead over this chasing pack for third.
up towards Coppice. They come then. It is Matty Graham in the lead of the race. Right there behind him is Gus Burton. A bit of smoke from Cian Jewis's car. Now, he has made good progress up through the rest of the pro class here, and he's still gaining places. Many people's tip for the title, Cian Jewis, but it was not a great start to the season. Contact with Gus Burton on the opening lap put him through the gravel. He recovered and then had another moment up at Coppice when he was trying to get back towards the front of the field.
Yeah, Gus Burton received a penalty for that, 2 points against his championship score, but the race result stood. But Cian Jewis, yes, looking really anxious to get to the front, but Smalley's putting up a stout defence in front of him.
Down through the Carrera curves they turn then. This is lap 3. 0.6 of a second was the margin between the top two when they went across the timing line. And there, side by side for third, Edgerton up the inside. He's coming through, come what may. Seb Morris tried to close the door, maybe a little bit late, but Edgerton fully committed to that.
That was a huge lunge, but he got the car stopped. Maybe Apex didn't run wide. Great overtake.
Up now through McLean's corner they turn. So Seb Morris, having dropped that place, looks as though he's falling back into the clutches of others. Now Adam Smalley wants to make a move, but Cian Jewis there gets ahead of Smalley. Through he goes for 5th place. Nathan Harrison is next in the queue in the largely white and pink and green and black car, because that's the one that leads Pro-Am. Jewis with a flash of the lights now closing up on Morris. Look how Edgerton, having got ahead of him, has pulled clear. Yeah, very quickly. So unfortunately, Seb Morris, the sort of cork in the bottle in these early laps, but maybe the car will come to him a little bit later. Cian Jewis has been watching lots of Porsche International Super Cup racing. They flash their lights like crazy. Oh, here comes the lunge. Great move, great move. Didn't lock up, cleanly through. So he's done it, he has gone by, and Cian Jewis then gains another place, carving his way forward. Another driver trying to make progress in Pro-Am, Charles Rainford, who was excluded from race 1 for a technical infringement, started 10 seconds after everybody else. Cian Jewis, aggressive through the old hairpin. We've seen a lot of lockups today in both races. Yeah, here's the start. Look, Matty Graham just got the car moving perfectly. Just got it hooked up and rolling perfectly. Really good launch. Quite hard to do in these cars to get the combination of throttle and clutch just right. But Gus Burton was forced into defending from Theo Edgerton into the first corner. There on the inside, look, there you see Cian Jewis making up some places on the inside. So Matty Graham trying to build that lead. Last time around he did the fastest lap. That was Peter Kyle Henney after his spin trying to get going. He is at the moment in last place as the leaders come by. So Matty Graham now by 0.9 of a second leading from Gus Burton. Third is Theo Edgerton. Fourth is Cian Jewis. In 5th place is Seb Morris. And look at the train behind the Team Parker racing car. Yeah, but on that lap, who was the fastest man? It was Cian Jewis with the fastest lap of the race. A 1 minute 5.9 against the leaders 6.0. So pretty close to Matty Graham's pace, but quicker, crucially, than Burton and Edgerton. Yeah, Jewis is 4 seconds away from the lead. He's got traffic to get through as well as making up all of that time. There is the Seb Morris versus Adam Smalley fight. Adam Smalley, the Porsche Junior, who won that scholarship at the end of last year. He's in the Duckham's USA Racing with Redline entry. His teammate, Oliver White, former Ford star, winner of the Walter Hayes Trophy at Silverstone. He is 14th, 10th in class after very little mileage in that first race. Yeah, very little mileage indeed. It looks like now we've got a move now on Seb Morris from Adam Smalley. Got the inside, got the car turned neatly. Just looked like he had more grip at Coppice and was able to turn underneath Morris. Morris's pace is really not, it's almost like he's on old tyres and they're on new tyres. So I'm not sure how they've used their tyre allocation, 3 brand new sets for the weekend that they have, but he's definitely at a grip disadvantage at the moment in this race. Yeah, he was working hard early on. He also needed to keep Edgerton at bay, and that was early in the race. He seemed to be struggling. So we're now on lap 6 out of the 23 as they plunge downhill once more. Fastest lap that of Cian Jewis. He went quicker still last time, a 65.871. So he's the quickest man on the circuit right now. In other words, he is now 3.7 seconds off the lead. Number 10, Will Martin there, onto the back now of Nathan Harrison. Nathan Harrison, 27, the number on his car, is leading Pro-Am. The leading Am is Josh Stanton. Lots of new drivers coming into the championship this year, and that's helping generate lots of good scraps. And Nathan Harrison, even though he is the leader in Pro-Am, running with all of these pros. Yeah, doing a really good job, actually. And he was with Team Hard last year, but has switched Team Hard not in the championship this year, and his pace has really improved now he's running with Redline Racing. Through the chicane, battle rages on for 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th and back. race leaders go by, with the lead gap now 1 second. Cian Jewis 3.6 seconds off the lead, so he is still closing on Matty Graham. The cars turn their way through Redgate. You see the way the rear wings are mounted these days, this sort of swan neck style fitment with the brackets on top of the wing rather than underneath. It's the underneath of the wing that does the hard work, so it's not affected by having the fixings. That's on top, so the wing can work to its maximum unaffected. That's your AM leader, that's Josh Stanton. Another driver that's changed teams. He's at JTR and going really nicely right now onto the back there of Mika Stanley, but under attack, Josh Stanton. Charles Bateman looking for a way-by.
Yeah, good to see Charlie Bateman back in the championship. He just had to abort that lunge, didn't he? Just managed to get on the brakes and avoid a bit of contact down at the old hairpin, but he's immediately back onto the tail of Josh Stanton. Fabulous liveries on these 992 Cup cars this year. They all come in silver. Remember, the cars used to come in white, and they'd all be predominantly white, but the teams have done some great jobs on liveries and graphics this year, and these cars very much resembling GT3 cars, really. And in fact, in performance terms, they're very... Oh, big lock-up at the front!
Mika Stanley, he just about gets away with it, but slightly impedes himself and Stanton, and so Charlie Bateman comes up to try and get 2 in 1, doesn't he? They're 3 wide over the line. One little mistake triggers all of that, and Charles Bateman on the outside line gets past the pair of them. Good racecraft.
Yeah, thank you very much. 2 places. It's very easy on these cars to lock the front wheels. They don't have ABS, they don't have traction control, much like the old cars. It's always been a principle of Carrera Cup that they don't have driver aids, but of course they're much faster. These cars are lapping at GT speeds, that's what I was going to say, but GT cars have the benefit of ABS, and that's one of the things that Seb Morris is adapting to, having spent years in GT3 cars. To jump back into a car without ABS is quite difficult.
He's also adapting to single driver races because he's had a co-driver, Rick Parfitt it was, with whom he won the British GT Championship. Rick now in the Touring Car Championship, and most recently a co-driver in Lamborghini Super Trofeo, as out of the chicane, the Battle of Wills again here. Will Martin ahead of Will Aspin, through they go. Will Martin is in number 10, the all-blue car behind number 9 is that of Will Aspin, another Ginetta graduate. Then in the queue there's Jack Bartholomew and Ryan Ratcliffe, last year's Pro-Am champion there, number 33, the yellow, black and white car, next in the queue, and Ryan Ratcliffe, 3rd in Pro-Am, needing to get a bit of a wriggle on.
Yeah, definitely, and Will Martin, Cian Jewis and Matty Graham, the 3 drivers who came into this championship as previous race winners. Will Martin staying with the Richardson Racing team. He's got Matt Armstrong as well with him in that team, but he's not quite as high up as he thought he would be. And Will Aspin's making a great debut weekend.
He is indeed. There, number 41, Jake Giddings, who's had occasional races in the championship, getting stuck in behind Ryan Ratcliffe. Behind the pair of them is Hugo Ellis. Now, you see the Napa colours. They're familiar now in touring cars. They're here in Porsche Racing as well. And down towards the chicane they come. Jake Giddings pulls out of the draft of Ryan Ratcliffe and can't find a way by. At the back of this queue is the next yellow-nosed car, the second of the Duckham's UASA Racing with red line entries. Oliver White at the wheel of it, and he is in 14th spot.
Yeah, apologies to Jack Bartholomew. I think I probably said Armstrong, didn't I? But,
it's been a long day.
Yeah, it is. It's Jack Bartholomew who's in the other Combine Racing car. Yeah,
10th he is. He's another graduate there. He is, in fact, number 89, Jack Bartholomew. Another graduate from the Sprint Challenge. The man that won that, Theo Edgerton, is up into 3rd place, having a really good run this weekend, having been 2nd in the opener. So we're on to lap 10 out of the 23. Now, it's a new tyre, it's a new car, and it did seem in the first race at the start of the day that you need to look after that tyre.
Yeah, you do. I mean, the front tyre on this is actually about 1.5 inches wider than on the old car. But of course, the car is wider anyway. It's got more aero, so more downforce, so more force going through the tyres. The rear tyres are actually the same size as the other cars, but you saw particularly at the end of race 1 lots of lock-ups as the effectiveness of the front tyre fades a little bit, and perhaps the drivers need to learn to adjust the brake bias a little bit during the course of the race.
Great shot that, isn't it, as the cars lean coming out of the chicane. On board with Seb Morris, down through the gears, 3rd, turns in, and on to the pound now, drags it out of Redgate, heading up towards Hollywood.
4th, 5th, depending on the wind. This can be the fastest part of the corner of the circuit as you come down through the craners. Down to 4th for the old hairpin. Hook up that inside curve to get the car rotated. He ran about as wide as you'd ever want to. Then up the hill, you want all the momentum you can. get the car turned, probably stop it in the middle of the road here as you go in, hook the inside curb again, use the exit here of McLean's as you run up to Coppice and try and spot your blind turning in point there across the curb in third gear. You can do it almost in fourth, but third gear, fourth on the exit, fifth down the straight, and now you've got to pick your braking point for the chicane. Just staying in fifth down there, down to third. It's a much faster chicane than it looks. It's a lovely chicane with a dip in the middle. You slingshot out of it and across the start-finish line. And will he catch sixth down here? Not quite, still staying in fifth.
We've got a driving standards flag going the way of Ryan Ratcliffe, number 33, who is in 11th place overall. Seb Morris rattles it up onto the curb on the outside of Redgate. And the Team Parker Racing entry then now plunges down the hill once more. Lap 12 out of 23. Matty Graham for red line, leading by 1.4 seconds as that Morris turns out of the old hairpin. Now behind him is Nathan Harrison, whose last lap was fractionally slower.
Yeah, fractionally so. I was just looking at the progress of Cian Dewis. I mean, relative to Matty Graham, the leader, he's still 3.7 behind, but crucially, he's only just over half a second now behind Theo Edgerton.
Yes, this is true. So Cian Dewis, oh, big off there for Mika Stanley. It's a wild old ride down through the Craner curves. And thankfully, it stays on the grass. It doesn't slide back onto the circuit, catch out anybody else. But Mika Stanley, who arrived this weekend as a Pro-Am, was upgraded to Pro before the first race. Let's see how he got there. Was there some help?
Yeah, it looks like he did have a bit of help, didn't it? Just managed to slide the car and stop it before going back onto the track. But that's not a place you want a little touch, is it?
You're not wrong. The car that was behind him when they crossed the line was that of Josh Stanton, the AM class leader. Okay. So they might have had a little rub. That's Edgerton. He's third, and Cian Dewis behind him on the last lap, actually. Drops
no, Burton's behind him, look. So we've got a new second place man. Theo Edgerton is up past Gus Burton, and then Cian Dewis coming into play. So Gus Burton's had a problem. Let's see if we can see. He was wide coming out of Redgate. Well, that was very strange. Almost looked like he missed a gear, didn't it? But you can't miss a gear, it's paddle shift. So he lost some pace coming off Redgate, and Edgerton was able to slice up the inside going around Hollywood.
Absolutely right. So Theo Edgerton up into second place. Cian Dewis tries to make a move, and that's Mika Stanley for the pit lane as Edgerton comes then out of the chicane. So Matty Graham with a huge gap now. Edgerton second, Burton third, Dewis fourth, Adam Smalley fifth, but it's 3.6 seconds between Matty Graham and Theo Edgerton for the 1-2 at the moment. Yes, Gus Burton, as you say, seems to have that lack of drive coming off the corner. Another change has happened. Look, Nathan Harrison is ahead now of Seb Morris.
Yeah, he's got past finally. Adam Smalley, of course, is the Porsche Junior driver for this year and next, getting an £85,000 contribution towards his budget, taking over from Harry King, who's moved up the Porsche Motorsport ladder pyramid to International Super Cup racing full-time. And this is now Dewis getting very aggressive on the back of Gus Burton. Can he get up the inside at Coppice? He's on the grass, they touch. They're still side-by-side coming onto straight. Burton's trying to move him over, but I think there's enough of a run on the inside now. There's no good flashing the lights. There's no one in front of you, Cian.
But he's done it, he's got through. Drama for Burton, who goes around. Smalley has to go off in avoidance, but he turned in and clipped the tyre stack on the inside. There's lubricant on the road. That's Burton's race run. Yeah, and he smashed the radiator, as you saw, putting some fluid down there. That was such a shame. And look, cars are going off because they're catching the liquid, so that's Hugo Ellis who's delayed. Look at the damage there, and that's because of a tyre stack. Yes, it's to try and stop you cutting the corner, but look at the damage it has done. That water is on the road at the chicane. It should dry quickly, but that's a huge amount of damage for a relatively tiny mistake. Well, here we go, looking back now. The cars were side by side coming down the straight. Amusingly watch Cian Dewis flash the light where we don't get the forward shot, but then just turning in. And the problem is that at that point, Gus Burton is slightly unsighted because he's got the car in front of him turning across the line. He can't see the line properly and clips the tyres. Smalley did a great job to avoid it, but, you know, David, we have this discussion all the time. We put obstacles that are very dangerous in the way of
fast-moving racing cars. They do it to stop them cutting the corner.
Yes.
But if it wasn't for that, you would never put a dangerous obstacle in front of a racing car. When drivers are unsighted or a small mistake leads to a massive consequence. Had another car gone off on that fluid or two cars crashed, you know, what could have happened?
The flippant answer you get sometimes from officials is don't hit them. But that's not the story, is it? Because you know, there's a reason why that happened. As you say, he was unsighted. That's a massive amount of damage. And this is having a huge impact on drivers' budgets.
Drivers' budgets and, you know, everything. Race results, championships. I mean, normally it happens, we say it up at Croft. You know, Jonathan Palmer, MSV running a fantastic operation. They've done wonders for Donington, but there has to be a better answer to corner limits and track limits than putting obstacles and those tyres are actually strapped to the ground with lorry straps, so they're massive. It's like putting a wall there.
Yeah. So you can see the damage that he's done, and it's changed the order thus. Matty Graham leads from Theo Edgerton with Cian Jewis third, Adam Smalley now fourth, Nathan Harrison fifth, and Seb Morris sixth. Gus Burton out of the race, and what started off looking very promising for him from pole position and leading much of race one ends up with a very badly damaged car. You can see his feelings about it.
Yeah, his race weekend has really sort of unravelled, hasn't it? He set a fantastic pole time. He was 0.2 of a second quick, which doesn't sound like, but the top 4 or 5 cars have been so close, hundreds and thousands splitting them. That was a fantastic performance, but the 2 races have not gone to plan for Gus Burton, and it hasn't started off his season as how he would have liked.
Now, Matty Graham leads the way. Now, there's a question mark over whether Matty's got the budget to complete the whole season. Let's hope he has, and let's hope this helps to attract a few more sponsors, because he's a very accomplished driver. He was a race winner a couple of years ago in the Harry King season, where all the talk was about how well Harry was doing. But Matty Graham just got on with the job. He's managed to find a bit of money to come and race at the back end of last year. He did Croft, did he not? He's back again now, and here he is, leading by 2.7 seconds. And it would be a real shame were he not to be able to finish the season, because here is a potential champion.
Yeah, quite definitely. He's been really quick all the way through testing. He loves this car. He knows the team well. He's driving beautifully. Let's hope he can continue this.
So he's on lap 18 out of the 23. Cian Jewis still has that fastest lap of the race, and that's the point that goes with it to his name. Theo Edgerton is in second spot. The classes, Nathan Harrison leads Pro-Am, and the leading Am is Josh Stanton, who's having a great day. His second season in the championship.
Yeah, Theo Edgerton, I think, is going to be very happy with his weekend if he can get another second place, graduating, as I said, from being a dominant champion in the Cayman Sprint Challenge. But this is quite a step up in terms of machinery, but he's adapted very well, and this is a great start to his championship.
Peter Mansion going through in the AM category. The blue and white car is fourth in class, chasing after another returning driver, Mark Radcliffe, who had a few seasons in Super Cup a little while ago. That's Josh Stanton leading in the AM category. We've talked about the Sprint Challenge. That kicks off at Silverstone in 2 weeks' time, but will make occasional guest appearances at the British Touring Car Championship race weekends. Josh Stanton, whose uncle Richard was a TVR Tuscan and Morgan at Le Mans GT racer. He comes out of Coppice and now on the run down towards the chicane once more. So Josh Stanton, 17th overall, looking for 2 out of 2 in class.
Yeah, that'll be a nice start. The red stripe across the windscreen header, denoting his class.
Now, good little fight going on here. Jake Giddings under attack from Oliver White. It's a very different sort of race car, the Porsche, compared to a spindly non-aero Formula Ford 1600 that Oliver White has spent many seasons of success in, be it in the UK or in Australia. He's even won Formula Ford races round Bathurst of all places. So we know he's brave, but he's got to make this adaptation to a very different race car.
Yeah, I mean, it's great to see Ollie White get this opportunity with Duckham's and Redline Racing, and as you say, I mean, to come from single-seaters, you know, especially treaded tyre single-seaters, the like of which Ollie White has been so dominant, really, in the classes he's raced in, but to jump up to a GT car on slicks, huge step, but he's got so much natural pace. I'm sure that he's only going to go forwards during the rest of this year. I mean, his race lap times are already very good. It's just extracting the maximum amount of new tyres in qualifying and little nuances he needs to learn.
Here's another of the drivers run by Redline Racing, and turns his way out of Hollywood down through the Craner curves. So Michael Stanley is briefly back into the race and then back into the pits. He did rejoin after he stopped. We have definitely lost Gus Burton, so 23 of the 25 starters still circulating. Charles Rainford up into 16th after his 10-second delayed start for the technical infringement that excluded him from race 1 as White turns out in McLean's. Matty Graham, though, is driving faultlessly up front.
Yeah, there's only a tenth of a second on lap times between the top 4 cars, so they're all maintaining position at the moment. In terms of lap time drop-off, they've only dropped off about 4 or 5 tenths, so actually the tyres are holding up really well for the length of this race. Who is that?
It's like the Michael Clark that's gone off the road. It's not, it's Mark Radcliffe in the Beluga car, yeah. So that's a spin down at the old hairpin, and Mark Radcliffe was 19th overall. What did he do? Ran very wide.
Got wide, spun the car around, and Peter Mangian did a really good job to avoid him there, didn't he?
He did indeed, and was therefore caught by Nigel Rice, another driver returning to the championship after many, many years away as well in Nigel Rice's case. He was in the Cayman Sprint Challenge last year, and comes back to Carrera Cup. Right, we have got just under 3 laps to go. Long, long train of cars here with Hugo Ellis there, the JTR at the back of it in the Napa colours. Heads into the right-hander of McLean's now, but this battle further down is Nigel Rice on the back of the delayed Peter Mangian as they turn into Redgate Corner. Two AM racers absolutely together, but Nigel Rice, who's been a mainstay of Porsche racing for many, many decades, and he's back here after a long, long layoff.
Yeah, fantastic to see Ricey back in the championship. He was here in the inaugural year. 20 years ago we celebrate this year of Porsche Carrera Cup racing, and he was there at the beginning and he's here again now, and absolutely he loves his Porsches, he loves his racing, and he's got someone to fight with now.
As it was Donington, he had a sizable accident at a good 2 decades or so ago, but here he is on the tail of Peter Mangian. So Nigel Rice hustles on. Peter we saw in the championship last year. Nigel back into the category after a year in the Caymans, but he goes a little bit wide though there, coming out of Coppice. This the 351st race in the history of Carrera Cup GB as they drop towards the chicane, and the race leaders not that far behind as Peter Mangian just threads it between those obstacles, coming out of the chicane, heads up towards the line now, but Nigel Rice gets the run on him on the outside line.
Yeah, I see Nigel Rice's splitter is down on the right-hand side of the car, so he's going to lose a fair bit of downforce. These are much more aero-dependent, these cars, than the previous generation of cars, so he'll lose something going around the right-hand corners through without that splitter.
And behind them, the race leaders have just started their last lap. So Matty Graham is ahead of Theo Edgerton by 2.9 seconds. And Kean Jewis, at least he's going to bank decent points here in 3rd, but it's going to be fascinating to see what the championship looks like at the end of the weekend, because some of the people expected to do well haven't done as well as people expected, and others have come out of nowhere. But Matty Graham, I think we knew was always going to be a front runner. He's underlining why.
Yeah, very, very quick driver, and that's why Simon Leonard at Redline wanted him in the car, even if he hasn't got a full budget at the moment.
Now in this battle lower down, Jake Giddings on the move and getting himself up ahead. Is he of Jack Bartholomew? Yes, he has. So Jack Bartholomew drops back 1 place into the clutches now of Oliver White. So Oliver White tries to go one side and then the other. But Matty Graham is out of the chicane and the checkered flag awaits. So the Redline Racing car is set for the win, and the checkered flag is waved so that Matty Graham wins round 2 of Porsche Carrera Cup GB. Theo Edgerton takes 2 seconds, and I suspect the championship lead to go with it, ahead of Kean Jewis and Adam Smalley, a win and a 4th. 5th goes the way of Nathan Harrison, so 2 class wins for him, and Seb Morris takes 6th. Will Martin 7th. 8th place will go the way of Will Aspin. Ryan Ratcliffe is set for 9th, and on that last lap 10th goes to Jake Giddings, having just got past Jack Bartholomew. Oliver White is 12th. Important miles for him because he did, what, only 2 laps really in the first race.
Yeah, great recovery drive by Kean Jewis. He started 15th in that race, remember, and got himself up to 3rd and got fastest lap.
Josh Stanton here is on target for a 2nd AM win of the day in the JTR car. Joe Tandy Racing, Nick Tandy's team. So really good day at the office for Josh Stanton. 2 from 2 as he makes his way now up over the timing line. And so Josh Stanton is the man to beat, certainly in the AM class. The battles rage on between Peter Mangian and Nigel Rice. They get towards the timing line together, but Peter Mangian ahead by 0.245 of a second. So the cars come pouring over the line with Michael Clark fifth in class ahead of Peter Kyle-Henny, and then Mark Radcliffe after his spin recovers but in last place. But some good battles all the way through the field, but a real shame that Gus Burton had that incident at the chicane, because that's, as we've seen in seasons past, you know, one non-finish because of the way the point scoring structure is. It's hard to come back from.
It's very hard. There's only a couple of points between the places at the front, so a total non-score is very costly in the pro class.
So then we have Matty Graham as the winner by 3 seconds from Theo Edgerton. Cian Jewis taking that third place, and a fascinating start to the season, these first 2 races for the new car into Carrera Cup GB in this 20th anniversary season, and it's going to be as competitive as ever, that's for sure.
Yeah, a great debut weekend for the new 992 Cup car, and for a lot of drivers as well. It's great to see so much young talent coming through, a full grid, 25 cars. They look and sound fantastic. Slightly noisier this year as well. They've running under slightly different technical regulations and slightly noisier, and they sound all the better for it.
They do indeed, and they've delivered 2 lively races, that is for sure. Possibly the first was lively because people were still getting used to the cars as they do become more familiar. That will certainly be evident, I'm sure, as the season goes on. The results of round 2 at Porsche Carrera Cup GB: a win for Matty Graham, Theo Edgerton in second place and Cian Jewis third. Fourth to Adam Smalley, ahead of Nathan Harrison with Seb Morris sixth. Seventh and eighth for Wills, Martin from Aspin, Ryan Ratcliffe ninth, and Jake Giddings in 10th. Jack Bartholomew taking 11th ahead of Oliver White, and then Hugo Ellis with Angus Whiteside ahead of Charles Bateman and Charles Rainford up from his 10-second delayed start. The AM winner Josh Stanton 17th ahead of Justin Sherwood, Peter Mangian, and then Nigel Rice. Michael Clark 21st ahead of Peter Kyle-Henny and then Mark Radcliffe. And we lost with damage Gus Burton, and after his wild ride through the Craner curves and the grass, Mika Stanley a retirement too. So 2 races done, and the championship is led by Matty Graham and Adam Smalley and Theo Edgerton on 18 points apiece, with Seb Morris next ahead of Cian Jewis, who ties with Gus Burton. Then Mika Stanley, Will Martin, Jake Giddings and Jack Bartholomew, the top 10 in the pro class. In Pro-Am, Nathan Harrison has the advantage over Will Aspin with Hugo Ellis third, and in the AMs, Josh Stanton has a commanding advantage over Justin Sherwood with Nigel Rice in third place. So great drive in race 2 by Matty Graham. He is a happy man indeed as the cars make their way into Parc Fermé. Charles Bateman clambers out of his car.